Welcome to Scene Change, a podcast by the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division. All about equality, opportunity, accessibility, and the arts. Here, you'll learn adaptive techniques from performers in the know. We are changing what it means to be blind, one stage at a time. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scene Change. I'm Lizzy Muhammed-Park, the Vice President of the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division and the host of the show. We have the President of the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division with us, Katelyn MacIntyre, as well as one of our board members, Precious Perez.
Yeah, hi, it's great to be here with you, Lizzy, and everyone listening, welcome. I am Katelyn MacIntyre, the President of the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division, and I love everything performing. I have a Master of Music in Vocal Performance, and which means that I studied opera and art song and oratorio and lots of classical music. I also sing jazz and musical theater and other styles. And I play some piano and guitar. I also teach all of those things online currently, which is a whole lot of fun. I love getting to pass on what I've learned to others. And then I also do some competitive ballroom dancing. I've done that in the collegiate circuit. That's actually how I met my husband, which is a wonderful story. And I've dabbled in some acting and motivational speaking. And I just love the performing arts, all of it.
Great. We're so glad to have you, Katelyn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And Precious?
Hi, everybody. This is super exciting. My name's Precious. I am currently studying music education and performance at Berklee College of Music. I am a vocalist and a songwriter. I like to use my art as a form of activism as well. So I've done a lot of different performances, and I've got YouTube and music out on all streaming platforms, all those kinds of things. And I'm just really excited for the opportunity to bring performing arts to other people and build community with the performing arts. So being a part of this division is wonderful, and super excited to be on this first episode of our new podcast.
So before we jump into anything more formally about the division, I'd like to take a step back and talk about what performing means to each of you. And Precious, as you know, we're going to start with you. It's interesting, Katelyn, that you mentioned how you met your husband in ballroom dancing. And I know that Precious, her entire recital this year, which was really great, was all about her journey to her fiance, Shane, who is actually recording this right now for us in audio editing this episode for us. Could you guys tell me a bit about how performance has been personal for you guys? And it could be, if you want to share your personal stories, whether it's like, it could be an early memory, it could be a recent memory, it could be a time that performing has presented, itself to you, or maybe an opportunity or a relationship that has been able to build for you.
Sure. So I think performance, and really it just started for me when I was really little. Somebody gave me a karaoke machine when I was 6 years old. And I used to just be in my room with the microphone, and it was back when the machine had cassette tapes that you could put them in and record. Yes. And so I would just put on the radio and record myself singing, but I was super painfully shy back then. And then I grew into it as I participated in choral ensembles and things through elementary school and middle school. I started doing more performances and started writing my own songs in middle school. And I kind of used it as an outlet and as a channel for anything I was going through. It was what I was really passionate about. And it was something that I could use to, I soon discovered, relate to other people and connect to other people. And I think that means a lot to me. All of my friends and people that are close to me are all involved in some way in the arts. And it's a way for us to, connect and continue to build stronger friendships. And it's just great to be able to use the arts to bring people together and to really kind of make an impact.
That's really true. You know, come to think of it, actually, Precious, I forgot about my first karaoke machine. And it's really funny because I think that may have influenced my performance a little bit too, but I just totally forgot about it. Katelyn, did you ever have a karaoke machine or anything like that?
I never did. No.
How'd you get into it then?
I know, right? That would have been great. I think we did have some tape recorders around the house that my mom let us just record ourselves, over and over the same tape multiple times, which would be really fun to go back and listen to now. But yeah, I had two older brothers. I still have two older brothers, and we were all really into music growing up. So I was kind of blessed to have a little bit of that way paved for me, with my older brothers getting into music first. And I saw that and saw how much they enjoyed it. And we all really kind of started to encourage each other. I do have memories, and I think there's some video footage of me singing songs at maybe 3 or 4 years old and going up to my mom and saying, "Can I sing you a song?" "Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Finish that one. Can I sing you another one?" "Okay, hot cross buns, hot cross buns. Can I sing you another one?" Going on and on. And I was really eager to share my music from an early age. But after that, my family and I actually started singing together, which was a wonderful way to, I think, encourage each other and kind of start that collaboration aspect of performing arts that I love so much. I love doing solo work, but whenever I'm a part of a choir or singing with orchestra or in I've done clogging in a dance group where you're not the only person on stage, you can accomplish so much more than when you're just the only one there. I love that aspect of performing arts. So that was a great starter. And then one other thing I love as well is the fact that all performing arts, but music specifically in my field, really transcends language barriers, transcends cultural barriers. It's kind of an international language that can reach anyone and everyone. And singing opera has taught me that as well, because so much of it is about telling a story in whatever language you're singing in: German, Italian, French, Spanish. You're singing in these different languages. The audience doesn't necessarily understand that, but you're still conveying a story, telling a story about love or loss or joy or sorrow. And then kind of taking that into a more practical or real life scenario. I had the privilege after my senior year of college to go on a trip to Romania to work with orphans there. And, I didn't speak any Romanian yet, and they didn't speak much English, but we were able to use music as a way to connect and to teach them, tell them stories, to teach them life skills, various ways that we were able to use music to bring joy and hope and give them encouragement in their daily lives. And so I just loved being able to see that music could really just reach out to a totally different people group than I was from, and still create that connection and that community and that bond. So music is really powerful, as are all the performing arts.
You're exactly right. When you say that, the performing arts connects people across language. I know for my senior solo, which at Bryn Mawr, in the a cappella group that I was in, each senior is allowed to pick a song that they want to sing. It could be something special to you. It could be something that, you just sound good singing, or whatever the case may be. You don't always get to have a solo when you're in an a cappella group, but your senior year, that's your time to shine. I ended up choosing a song that I would always dance to and sing when I was in Spain. And it's a really popular reggaeton song by Mark Anthony, Vivir Mi Vida. And I just loved that song. And what happened, the reason why I ended up singing that one was because the housekeeper at the school that I was attending, she said, "You know what?" She's like, "I love how you're here and you're just taking advantage of everything, and you don't care, you're not letting anything stop you." Because honestly, when I got to Spain, my Spanish was not good. It was really kind of bad. And but I just went for it anyway. I wasn't really worried about that. And I would tell people, I'm like, I was like, I'm sorry if you don't understand me. My Spanish isn't good, but I need to practice. So I'm going to keep talking to you in Spanish. You know what I mean? Like, even if I'm struggling, even if you're struggling, we're going to get through this because I'm going to pretend like I don't speak English. And that's honestly what I did in a lot of situations. And
anyway, such a good attitude.
So she said that, every time she would hear that song, she said, Lizzy, whenever I hear this song, I think of you. And then she said, do you know this song? And she would like, sing it to me and we would sing it together. I ended up like just memorizing all the words. And it was, she loved music. So I just ended up memorizing all the words. And when I got back from my senior solo and they said, what song do you want to do? I was like, all right, we're doing this song. And they were like, we don't speak Spanish. And I was like, well, we're going to figure it out. So like, even though you guys don't necessarily know what you're saying, I was like, sing it with feeling, here's what the words mean, no matter what the day brings, I'm going to, have fun. I'm going to enjoy life. And that's what the song is about. So we're going to sing it and we're all going to have fun doing it. And they're like, all right, so it's just, and the audience loved it, but I just think it's really powerful when you say it doesn't really matter what your performing art is, you can always connect with other people through that. And speaking of connection, we are all a part of the Performing Arts Division. Katelyn's president. As I said, Precious is a board member and I'm the vice president. So I'd like for us to discuss, what drew you into the Performing Arts Division and, connecting with blind people, with the Federation through the performing arts, just, and everything along those lines.
Yeah. For me, so I got involved with the National Federation of the Blind about 6 years ago in 2014. I'd grown up with a really positive blindness philosophy. My parents read Future Reflections, and so which is a magazine put out by the National Organization of Parents of Blind Children. And so I was raised really knowing that blindness didn't need to be a limitation for me. It didn't need to be my defining characteristic. It's a characteristic, a part of my life, but not the only characteristic. And so I was honored to receive a national scholarship in 2014 and went to my first NFB convention and was just totally blown away with the 3,000 blind people tapping canes and filling the halls of the hotel and convention center. Was so excited to just meet so many like-minded people who knew that they could reach for their goals and reach for their dreams no matter what they were, whether it was becoming a lawyer or a music teacher or an economist or a stay-at-home mom, whatever it was. Blindness did not have to hold us back from reaching our dreams. So I just love that. And, I saw the event on the calendar for the Performing Arts Division. And I just thought, hey, great, I'm going to go meet some other blind performers. And I went and I got pulled in. I was immediately hooked. Lections were being held. I thought, why not? This sounds like an amazing opportunity to start giving back to this amazing organization that's already reached out to me and given me a boost with this scholarship. So Lizzy and I actually got elected together onto this board. Lizzy is also a scholarship finalist from 2014. And I just have never looked back since. It's been an amazing community of like-minded people to share ideas about, hey, how would you go about making sure that I can memorize my blocking comfortably for this scene? Or have you ever tried learning guitar? It's a great community to ask questions of other blind people who've been there, who have created alternative techniques for different performing arts so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So I love that about our community. And just really, it's been empowering for me. I, thought I was already a pretty independent and self-sufficient person, and maybe by some standards I was, but there's always more to learn. And even just in the last years of being a part of this community, I've learned more. I've grown more in who I am as a performer, as a blind person, being confident to not let blindness hold me back from achieving my goals, whether it's on stage or screen or, just in daily life of being a confident blind performer. And so I love the community we have. I love that we have dancers and comedians and musicians and actors and people doing audio engineering and just, we want to be a really welcoming place. And I think we've been able to achieve that. So we'd love to have you join us if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, it's so true. We do have a lot of different styles of performance in our division. So there is literally something here for everyone. And just when you think that there's no one else who does your performing art, you never, I mean, at our meeting this year, there was a Native American flute player who said, "Oh, I'm probably the only blind one." And literally we had two others. So you just never know. You may think that you're going to be the only person who's doing a certain performing art, especially as a blind person. And next thing you know, voila, there's two or three others. So how about for you, Precious?
So I think I started noticing the presence of the Performing Arts Division when I started coming to national conventions in, I think it was 2013 or 2014. And I would sign up for the talent shows and perform at the talent shows. And for some reason the way the schedule worked, every time I planned mine out, I wasn't able to go. There was always a conflicting meeting, but I think there was a point where I was like, I need to go to these meetings and see what they're about. Because, performing arts, this is the division that, this is my field. This is the division that matches what I'm doing, And so I went and I realized, I think the first year I didn't, run for anything or anything like that. But then I realized, wow, I can actually do more than I'm doing because, I'm doing stuff with my state division with students and things. But I haven't found something that I feel like I can really make a difference with. Because part of my purpose with my career and with what I do is to break down stereotypes of blind performers and kind of show the world by example that, hey, we are capable and we can do this just as well as anyone else can. It doesn't matter that we can't see. That's not a factor in this. And so when I realized that this was a place where I could go and help make that happen, I was like, yes, I want to be a part of this. We're bringing together blind performers and we're changing what that means for people and really showing them that you're not the only one. There's a way to make this happen. There's a way to do this as blind people and you're not alone. So it's a community and it's also a collective effort to change perceptions, which is really, really cool.
You know what? You're exactly right. When you say that we're changing essentially, the performing arts and the way that's shaped around blindness. And I'd like to take this time to debunk some myths that are out there. If either of you can think of some off the top of your heads, and we can kind of spitball here. I mean, there are so many things, and hopefully we get a lot of sighted listeners and, various people who have, honestly, I kind of want people who have misconceptions of blindness and people who don't know what we're all about as a federation, because this is a great chance for them to learn. If there are any, sort of myths that people have out there that say oh, well, a blind person could never do this performing art or blah, blah, blah. I think this is a good outlet and channel for them to hear what those myths are. And there may be misconceptions and myths that they don't even know that they're holding, that are out there. And I mean, I don't know. Do you guys know of any? Have you? And I know that, Precious, you're at the Berklee School of Music, just really great school. And I know, Katelyn, you went to Carnegie Mellon. Even when it comes to getting into schools, I don't know how easy or hard that was for each of you, and what challenges you all had to face as far as that goes. But Precious, we'll start with you.
So there were... there's been a few blind students at Berklee. Now there's more of us than I think there has been in the past. They have a really great program at Berklee for blind students, which is a whole lab where we can learn how to use Pro Tools and all these things that everybody uses from a blind professor who knows all about the technology aspect. And that was really what drew me to Berklee, because I applied to other schools and everything, and some of which I would have had to build from the ground up as far as accessibility. And they were willing. And that's half the battle most times. Like, people have to be willing in order for, you to get what you need. But the thought of having to like reinvent the wheel was not something I wanted to do. And they had already started that, and they had a program for that. So that's really what made me think like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like, I want to go here. They eliminated the sight reading portion for me because they don't have a Braille embosser in their student access office. I mean, they have it in the lab, of course, but a lot of the visual aspects, as far as like auditioning for things and whatever, they kind of just don't do that. And I remember like during orientation, everything was print, like the schedules, the pamphlets, everything. And that was not helpful because obviously like I can't read all of those things. And they had a placement test. And they're like, yeah, I don't know what to do with this. Like, there was just a lot of miscommunications and like disorganization as far as where we should go to get what we needed and these things. And I think the hardest part at Berkeley for me has been, I've had some professors that have said, I don't know how to teach you. I can't do this. I don't know how to help you. Even when I laid it out, there was one professor I laid it out for him. I said, this is what you need to do. I need, you to tell me a timeline to get these music PDFs converted because otherwise I'm going to fall behind. And he said, well, this goes with the flow of the class, so I really can't help you with that. Yeah, and it was just, annoying. it was wild. And so I was like, are you serious? Like, this shouldn't be happening in this day and age, but there are still few professors that will say that and will not teach you because they think that they can't, or they're, it's their own biases and their own perceptions that make them think that it's way harder to teach a blind student. Like, it's way more work than it is, when really it's just a different way.
Exactly. And I think it's a total cop-out, too, to say that, well, this goes with the flow of the class, so I don't know. I mean, do you know if he had ever taught that class before? Because I feel like that's one good way to gauge it.
He was the teacher of that class. So it was like, just wild. I don't know.
Like, it's not the first time it's being offered.
Yeah, it happened twice. That was the second time. The first time was this harmony professor that said, I walked in my first week and he said, can you tell by my voice that I'm surprised to see you here? And, it was the most uncomfortable class I had to sit through. And then at the end, I was telling him, like, hey, we can resolve this. Like, I can go figure out how to make this work. It's fine. And he's like, I don't feel prepared to teach you. And went over everybody's head and talked to the chair to get me switched out of his class. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm speechless right now. Like, it's just so, like, you just wouldn't think, and like, this is, and the thing about the federation is that we always kind of like figure things out. You know what I mean? Like, we're very big on like not like pitying ourselves and things like that. And this is totally not about pity. This is just about injustice. Just the fact that you're going to a class as any other student would, and somebody's saying, I can't teach you. You know what I mean? That's just so, just like the feeling that goes with that is just, it's horrible. It's terrible. You know what I mean? I've been fortunate in the major that I was in. It wasn't a super visual major, so I didn't have any personal professors who had done that. But I do know that accessibility was brought up at different like faculty meetings and things like that. And like, when those kinds of things were brought up, like, there have been professors there who said, oh, well, I'm glad that she's not taking any of my classes because she couldn't, you know what I mean? Like, that's been, like, those,
and another
like, those comments
thing
have been
too
made.
Is like music education. I'm the first music ed student at Berkeley. They've never had somebody go through that program there. So essentially, the way that it worked was you kind of go and you talk to the chair beforehand because you're not allowed to declare until second semester. So I went and had a meeting with the chair, and the first thing he said was, so this is a lot of work, right? And like, do you have somebody that can help you do X, Y, and Z? And I just went, I'll figure it out. And in my head, I was going, you have no idea who you're talking to. Because I have all the sass in the world, so I will, like, I do have to, like, restrain myself sometimes. But there were 2 meetings had before they said, okay, this is your interview time. And I walk into a room. It's the entire faculty. And I'm getting questions like, how are you going to manage a classroom? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? And my answer was, we'll figure it out. Like, I'm not the teacher. I don't know how to do these things yet. I'm coming to y'all because you're supposed to teach me these things. And so we'll find a way to adapt that so that I can get the same out of these classes as the other students are. But you're not just, you can't say no. You can't turn me away from this. And I had to prove myself. I had to, it's a lot of weight to carry around when you're the first person to do something, because then you feel like you have to do it perfectly. So it's been, an uphill battle with that. And, now I'm at a really good place with the department and with the faculty, and everybody's aware now. And it's super rewarding to see. But it was just, it's been a journey for sure. There were times where I was just wanted to throw in the towel.
But you know what? What's that quote about? I do this a lot. I'm always like, what's that quote about? And then I make up a whole new quote that's totally not right. And then people just go, well, I mean, I think that was the quote. It's totally not the quote, okay? But what's that quote about the best things in life being are not easy to obtain or something like that? Katelyn, do you know it? I feel like you would know it.
I keep thinking you wanted to say the best things in life are free, but I don't think that's what you're going for.
The best way to handle this is to also assign who said the quote. So you can just always attribute it to, like, one of my cheap ones is I always attribute it to George H.W. Bush or like MLK, somebody with influence.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Wow, those tacos were good.
When in doubt, quote Forrest Gump.
It was, oh my gosh. No, it's something like, it totally does not start with the best things in life. It's something like, what is it? Wait.
Anything worth having is worked for. Anything worth having, you have to work for.
Working for?
Yes,
like
sure.
See, look, and then I totally screw it up. But that quote, whatever it is, see, this is what happens because, like, this is, you can't have like a planned conversation. You have it when it happens organically. I don't have the exact quote in my head, but someone listening to the show knows exactly what I'm talking about. And to that person, thank you. But basically being the first one to do something is so hard, but at the end of the day, it's so rewarding and it's worth the reward. And when you think about it, it sucks, but like no one remembers like the third person to do something or like the 10th person to do something or whatever, but everyone remembers the first person to do something. So I feel like as tough as the struggle is, you going through this, you're going to help so many other people. And not only that, but in some ways go down in history. You know what I mean? So that's also like a cool way to think about it during those rough times. And you're like, I'm so done with this. And if another professor looks at me and says, you can't, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I've had those days. I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. Nobody talk to me because I will blow a gasket. Don't even say the wrong word to me right now.
What about for you, Katelyn? Have you had those challenges, or even like, if it wasn't for you, do you know of other performers who have had a rough time,
Can I talk about the myths too?
Sure. Yeah, please.
Because I've got some myths to bust.
Perfect.
So first of all, blind people can dance. I just have to say it. I've heard from so many people that, I teach, I love teaching blind people how to dance. I do it at the National Federation of the Blind Convention. I've done it over various Zoom workshops we've had the last few months. And so many people just tell me I have never danced before because I just didn't think that I could, or I was nervous about it, or nobody ever encouraged me to do this. And so first of all, you can. And that goes for any performing art too. You can do it. And, it might take a little extra patience on your part, asking some questions, maybe getting some hands-on, feeling the teacher's feet position, or having someone make sure that your hand positioning for the ballet arm is in the correct spot, or whatever. it's possible. So blind people can dance. Also, we can stand on stage and on set pieces. I have a memory of being in a production in middle school where I was so excited because we were learning. I was just in the ensemble for this production, and we were learning the choreography, and I was so excited to get to do it. And we were going to be on these playground equipment pieces, which was part of our set design. And I was really excited because we're going to climb up these stairs and be way up high on the stage. And then we got to Tech Week, and the director told me that I was going to be standing off to the side of the large piece of play equipment because that was safer for me to be down there on the stage instead of up the stairs. And I was like, what? Why? It's a playground ladder. How many playground ladders have I been up in my life? So we can climb on set pieces. It's not a safety hazard. We can learn choreography. We can dance. I actually, one of my grad school auditions at a school which shall remain nameless, I entered the audition room, and the person said in the third person to me, "Katelyn can stand and sing from the floor if she likes, rather than ascending the 3 stairs up to the black box theater stage," which totally baffled me. I'm not really sure how that would have helped things.
What?
But we can climb stairs, we can stand on stages. So that blows my mind when expectations are so low that people just don't even give blind performers a chance to say, what are you comfortable with? And maybe some people are a little less comfortable moving around stage, but let the blind performer be the one to tell you if they have limitations or if they have concerns. Don't just assume that they can't do something just because they're blind or because I'm blind. So those are a couple of things. We can sing with conductors. I've been asked a lot of times, how on earth will you solo with an orchestra if you can't see the conductor? Well, you hear the orchestra, you hear the conductor breathe, maybe the conductor counts really quietly under his or her breath. Or if you're in the string section, you listen to the person next to you raising their bow to get ready. There are all kinds of techniques. So we can perform with conductors in choirs. We can do that. We can, learn choreography. It might, again, take a little more patience and time, but we can do it. And then the last thing that popped into my head is, it's, again, every blind person is different. So we don't want to all be lumped in the same bucket, but we can read music. We can do music theory. It's probably going to look different. It might be Braille music. It might be, transcribing it really large print. It might be a variety of methods, but we shouldn't just be, it shouldn't be assumed that, oh, you're blind, so you don't have to learn any kind of music theory skills whatsoever. I love music theory. It's been some of my favorite things I've had to take throughout my career. And I, unfortunately, did not learn Braille music as a young person. So that's a goal of mine to learn that down the road. I wish I had, but I found other ways to learn music theory and to be able to learn my music well. But other people who read Braille music do it that way, and maybe get their music ahead of time so they can study it if they're playing an instrument, or there are ways to make it happen. So don't ever assume that a blind person can't do something just because you don't know the way that it's going to happen. Like you said, Precious, too, I may not know the way it's going to work right now, but we'll figure it out. And I can bet you there is going to be an alternative technique we can use if we just use our heads and think a little bit. We're going to figure it out.
Absolutely. For sure. And you know what, Katelyn, what you said about it sounded like, with the one audition, it sounded like the person was trying to let you know that it was okay if you weren't comfortable. But I think that the thing that really was souring about that experience, even though I wasn't there, but the thing that's really souring about hearing the experience, I guess, for me, is that I feel like even if he had good intentions by offering you the option and letting you know that was okay, doing it publicly and doing it in a way that was not directed at you, but was saying, oh, Katelyn can do it if she wants, instead of taking you aside and saying, hey, Katelyn, just so you know, if you're uncomfortable on stage, you're more than welcome to perform from this place. That would have been so much more respectful. I'm sure it would have been, well received, because in that case, you're just seeing that they have these intentions. They're not just assuming for you that you're going to do this. And,
and so many times, awkward. You're right, because a lot of people, have good intentions, and we don't ever want to say that they don't. But just because someone has good intentions still does not mean that they're doing the right thing.
Right.
You know, like there
Right.
are so many times when people throughout history have been discriminated against in various people groups. Oh, but they had good intentions, but that doesn't make it right.
No,
and
it
so,
doesn't.
yes, you know, this person may have still had good intentions. You're absolutely correct. But the fact was they still had low expectations of me and probably of all blind people. And that's what we're trying to change. We want to raise expectations for blind people we want to raise the public's expectations of us so that we are encouraged to do these things and not left behind.
That's true, because another part of it too is not just the intent, but it's also the impact of what that person's doing.
Yes.
And when you think about intent versus impact, it's so, them saying that to you, like you said, it shows low expectations, and that,
yes,
even if you had a bit of a fear, who knows, but and this is not even for you, but for any blind person,
yes.
if they had a bit of a fear and they said, I'm going to go for it. And then having this person say, well, you can do this alternative method, maybe that makes you second guess yourself and say, well, maybe I should, should I not be doing that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because not every blind person is to the point of confidence, or is to the point where they can say, I want to do X, Y, Z. I don't know. What do you guys think? As blind performers, you guys both had to go to many auditions, I'm sure, for different schools. What's the best way for a sighted person to handle it? Is it to take someone aside? Is it to not mention it at all and let the blind student come to them first? Is it? I mean, obviously everyone's different, so I understand that your response is going to be from your perspective only. But I wonder if our listeners would have that question. You know what I mean? So what do I do? Well, for sure,
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that announcing in front of a group that so and so can do blah 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 if they want to is definitely not the way to go about it.
No.
We can all agree on that one. But what's your preferred method?
I totally agree with you that it probably is going to be different for every person. So I don't want to speak for every blind person here. I will tell you one really awesome experience I had when I did an opera at Carnegie Mellon University, and we had an amazing director come in from the Met. And she, I think I maybe even introduced myself to her. So ideally, I think it's always great if the blind person can, show a little initiative. And if you feel like you need to talk to the person, just go for it, introduce yourself. But sometimes that takes some courage. So, maybe the person approaches me. But I had this great conversation with her after the first rehearsal. And she just said, how can I help? Is there anything that I need to do to make this experience work for you? And I just said, wow, thank you for asking me that, and not just assuming that you need to do X, Y, Z instead of asking me if that's what I want. And so I think just being really open and maybe asking a question like that, saying, is there anything I can do to help accommodate you? Or is there anything that you need? Or please let me know if you need anything, instead of sort of assuming that they do or what that is. And just being really honest and open and opening those channels of communication so that you can really have that conversation instead of, making those assumptions and having those low expectations.
Yeah, I really think that it's like, it can kind of depend on the scenario too. Like there are some situations where maybe you can't get to that person immediately or like have a moment to introduce yourself. But I think there's something to be said for being proactive. Because it's important that, when you know what you need, you're able to express that to other people. And that's one of the biggest things in self-advocacy, is knowing what you need and being able to articulate that. So I feel like, one option is to, plan ahead. If it's something you feel like you need to disclose, then go ahead and talk to the person. Or if it's something that you want to just, see how this goes and see how it plays out. And if something happens where you might need an accommodation or you might need something else, you kind of just subtly kind of express that and say, hey, like, how would be the best way for me to do this and to do that? And it's all depending on somebody's level of comfortability, like if somebody isn't comfortable in a setting where like just going up and approaching somebody or doing it in front of everyone, you can always like email ahead and be like, hey, this is the situation. I feel most comfortable with this scenario. There's multiple ways to advocate without having to do that whole face-to-face communication right off the bat. So there are different options, and, you know, there are some situations that might work better with one or the other. But just know that, like, there's multiple ways to say what you need, and it doesn't always have to be direct contact like that.
That's very true. And I think that that's good for our blind listeners as well, because, you know, in there you talk about self-advocacy, which is something like that's a huge part of the life of a successful blind person. Like you essentially have to be a self-advocate. We really don't get a choice, because anyone else advocating for us is going to be perceived as, not that we're a shy person, but it would be perceived as we can't, you know what I mean? So we really don't have another choice. So I really love, Precious, that what you did there was mentioned ways even for the shy person to go about it, you know, even for maybe someone who's more introverted, or, you know, isn't as comfortable face to face. So we're wrapping up here. We had such a great conversation. I do want to ask each of you for preferably something that we haven't discussed yet, but if it is one that we've discussed and you just want to elaborate, that's totally fine. But I do want to ask each of you for a tip that you felt led to the success that you've been able to achieve thus far as a blind performer.
Oh man, this is a hard one, because there's like a lot of different aspects to this. I think the one thing I would say is be yourself. Honestly, like, confidence comes from within, and there's no standard of like, oh, this makes you a good blind person, this makes you a good whatever, like, advocate. Everybody's different. Everybody has the right to be different and do things different ways than other blind people. There's no universal way to do something. And I think mentioning that is important, because, you know, we can also get stuck in this, oh, well, if I don't do it like this person, then I'm not considered independent enough, or I'm not considered this, that, and the other. We, as a community, should be building off of each other and what we all have to offer and the different techniques that we all have. So being comfortable in what you need and what you use as a blind performer and what works for you, being able to express that, and then just going for it. It's harder to do that, you know, just saying it. But like, I've started doing a thing where if I see somebody post in a Facebook group, that's a Berkeley Facebook group, like, hey, I need a vocalist, I'll go and message that person and say, hey, I'm a vocalist, I'm interested. And I've gotten a lot of opportunities from that. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of rejections from auditions, from other things. Whether it was my vocal ability or whether it was my blindness, there's no way to know. You know, I've gotten discriminated against in applying for a Berkeley alum organization, like alumni run organization. Like, it's, there's all kinds of things that can happen, but honestly, like, we can't move forward and get the things that we want to get unless we try for them. And some days that's going to be harder than others, but, you know, out of 100 no's, if you get 1 or 2 yeses, I think there's something to be said for that.
Not only that, but, you know, it's also the quality, you know, like, if you get 100 no's that are nice, you know, it would have been nice to get a yes, but it wasn't going to set you up for the next step. You know, that one, you know, those, you know, that one yes, or, you know, those few yeses that are really going to push you in the right direction and push you towards your future. Those are the ones that really matter. You know what I mean? Because you could have gotten a lot of yeses that were not meant for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that were not going to help you to achieve any sort of a goal that you wanted. So that's something that, you know, definitely should be kept in mind, you know?
I think it's just maintaining perspective.
It's hard. It's hard when you're faced with rejection, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we have to keep these things in mind. You know, so it's definitely true. It sounds like part of what you were saying is just going for it, you know, a little bit of maybe fearlessness. I mean, and even if there is fear involved, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I have
know?
major anxiety, so like it's it's a battle because, you know, I deal with it on a daily basis. It's always there. It's like ever present, and things trigger it, things make it escalate. But in spite of that, I've had to kind of swallow that and say, you know what? If I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. And even if I'm like, I went to this audition once, and it was this, you know, producer guy, and I thought it was going to be a one-on-one audition. It was a huge room, and you basically go up there and like they switch band out and they switch vocalists out, and you're just supposed to improvise.
Wow.
And when I tell you I was overwhelmed, I was literally almost in tears because I was just not in the mindset for that. And one of my friends was there and he had to leave, and he said, "Look, Precious, like it's going to be okay. Like you can do this. It's going to be fine." And somebody saw me and said, "Hey, Precious, do you want to go up?" And I was like, well, this is my only chance, because if I don't get up now, nobody's going to see me in this crowded room again and ask me if I want to go up there. So I went, and, the band played and other vocalists were like singing riffs and whatever. And I was standing there like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I was so terrified because I was just not prepared. And they tell you in performing arts and anything, like you need to be prepared and like be on your toes and this, that, and the other. Not everybody's cut out for that. And so I was just like, oh my God, like how am I supposed to do this? And then something just came to me and I was like, you know what? I have to try. And I did. And it went well. I got a call back, didn't make it into the thing, but that's beside the point. Like you have to just, sometimes it's really hard, but sometimes you have to do hard things to get to where you want to go.
You know what? It's really true. And also the other thing too is I feel like so often, and I've been like grappling with this like philosophical question, like people will see us and they go like, oh, you're blind and you still like, leave the house. You're so brave. You're so inspirational. You're so amazing.
Yep.
Right. And like, the thing is, I feel like words like bravery, amazing, and inspiring become like annoying to us because it almost becomes an insult,
Yes.
But in reality, when you think about it, I mean, I didn't like look it up in the dictionary, but like we all know what the word bravery means, right? So, so like when you think about it, like to me, like, bravery is having the courage to overcome a fear, right? But we're not afraid to leave our house. Okay, we are not. Some people may be, and that's a whole other conversation that's not what I'm talking about right now. But we are not, as blind people, afraid to leave our house, or afraid to leave our houses, or afraid to do the day-to-day things. But when it comes to something like that is anxiety inducing, or that is actually scary, of course we're going to be afraid of that, just like anyone else would. And I feel like in those instances it's okay to say like in that case that you just mentioned, Precious, because of the situation that you just described, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you're brave, not because you're blind, but because you faced a fear, and because you took a chance and you took a risk and you weren't really sure you wanted to do it, but at the same time you didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? And you were overcoming that shyness, which is what you talked about in the very beginning, about, becoming a performing artist. And that's really fascinating because a lot of times performers are, a bit shy. And when we take those chances, and I say we because I got into performing from being shy as well. So when we take those chances and we take those risks, and we decide to face those fears and just overcome, those are times of bravery, and those are times when hearing a story like that is, can inspire another performer, be they blindsided or otherwise. It's so difficult to parse through someone's intention and impact, when they use words like inspiring, amazing, blah, 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 because I feel like, I know for me, like I've grown to dislike those words, but then when I think about it, I'm like, well, at that time, no, I wasn't being brave, but at another time, that could have been considered bravery because I was actually afraid to do that and I was willing to do it anyway.
Completely agree. And I guess one thing I'll say to encourage performers, maybe two things, is, so I agree with you, Precious, that so much of our career is be prepared and, always be prepared for the unknown. And well, that's really hard to do just for anyone. You can't know the unexpected before it happens. But what you can do is know what accommodations you need to be successful, or to, not let blindness be an obstacle. So maybe that is, if you're auditioning for something in acting, making sure that you get that script in an accessible format ahead of time. So you are not trying to fight and, read 12-point font what you can't see at an audition in a cold read. That's not going to work. So making sure you know that ahead of time, and then planning ahead for that. So not planning in the head of, in the sense of somehow magically knowing all the things that are going wrong and being prepared for that. That's not practical. But planning ahead in the sense of, okay, these are the things that make me thrive as a performer. So I need to make sure that I have these things. Maybe that's a large print script or a Braille script or a PDF, readable PDF or Word document script so you can read it with JAWS, whatever that is. Maybe that is, bringing a friend along to a salsa class so that you have someone to bolster your spirits if you're discouraged in the class, Maybe that is talking to the choir director to tell them, hey, I'm going to just memorize my music. So don't worry, I won't have music in front of me, but I'll be prepared. Whatever those things are, knowing yourself and finding that out about yourself so that you can thrive and do well in performing arts. And then adding to that, I would say, ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. I love asking questions. I mean, sometimes I'm nervous and I don't want to be the one asking the questions, but I think as blind people, sometimes we feel like, I ask so many questions already. I don't want to be that person again. But hey, that's often how I learn, because maybe if I'm in a class, maybe the instructor just is doing something visual. And even though I asked them to be verbal, they forgot this time. So, could you please explain what you just did with your right foot there in this clogging class or whatever? Maybe you're in a choir rehearsal and they say to go to measure 27, and maybe even just asking your neighbor next to you, what word are we starting on? Okay, great. I've got this, so ask questions. Don't be afraid to do that. Do what you need to do to make yourself comfortable and make yourself thrive. And don't be afraid to ask those questions. I love asking questions because it makes me feel like I know that I'm on the right track. And so just don't be afraid to do that.
And you never know if somebody else might have the same question.
Exactly. Yes. It's so true. It's so true. So whether you're in a class or even in a professional situation, they might say, do you have any questions? And it's okay to have a question. Yeah. When we have our call time, are you wanting us here on stage or in the green room? That's a perfectly legitimate question. You don't have to know all those answers. So just don't be afraid to ask questions. Be yourself. Do what you need to do to be prepared and confident and comfortable.
That's really true, because you know what? Oftentimes when you do the things that, are necessary to take steps towards success, oftentimes you may even end up growing closer to someone in power. And I'm not saying that you're doing it for those reasons, but it could be a benefit. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Connections.
Exactly. Because now they're going to know you in a way that they don't, they may not know the other performers
Absolutely.
on stage. And also, when you turn to, like you said, Katelyn, I love that trick about, just asking a neighbor sometimes, well, what word is that? Now that person sort of like, they could have just been looking at their music before, but now they're looking up, they're looking at you, they're like, oh, there's a person next to me. You know what I mean? And
sometimes I'd have to ask, like, are we sitting or are we standing right now?
Yes.
Like they don't tell you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like it helps build, like you can get connected to like the people around you too that way.
Yes.
Just kind of
Absolutely.
Most definitely. So, there are certainly positives to our situations. Like we have these very specific situations as blind performers, and we definitely have some perks and some positive sides to it as well, that other people just wouldn't have. We're able to be more social, and I think that that's something that people oftentimes overlook. So that's our show. I love everything that we've been able to discuss here today. I love that we've been keeping everything upbeat, but we've also been honest about the realities of blind performing. And I think that you both have done a great job, and I've loved having you here. Thank you both for joining me. Thank you, Shane, for audio editing. Thank you, Ryan, for our music. And thank you to the entire team, who will also be thanked in our credits afterwards. So stay tuned for all of that and to hear about our social media, hear about connecting with us, hear about everything that we are up to as a division. And I will give you guys a quick minute. If you guys have any promo, like I know, Precious, you do like a lot of personal stuff. If you have any personal promo stuff that won't be shared with our division information, feel free to do so now.
Sure. So if y'all are interested in checking out all of the things, because that's where they are, you can go to my website, which is preciousperezmusica.com. And that's where you'll find all the things, if you want to.
Love
Katelyn?
it. Yeah, you can find me at KatelynMac.com. So www.KatelynMac.com. And it's where you can connect with me about music lessons. I'm teaching anywhere in the country right now. So no matter where you are living, we can make it happen. And performing, you can watch some of my videos on there and connect with me on social media as well. And may I just briefly chat about the division?
Because I know that you won't restrain yourself, but it's already going to be in the credits.
No, but just because we didn't really talk about who we are as a division too. Just
okay, go ahead. I know she can't stop herself.
Just this one episode.
Go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, we'd love to have you join us in the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division. If you're not already a member, we'd love to have you with us. We are a group of people who want to advocate for blind performers. We want to create opportunities and equality for performers of all backgrounds, whether you're a musician, dancer, audio engineer, actor, comedian, whatever it is. We want to be a resource for you. We want inclusion of blind people in the entertainment industry. And those are some of the things that we really care about. We want to connect people, network, create opportunities and resources. So we would love to have you be a part of our movement. You can find us at nfb-pad.org. We are on Facebook, National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division, Twitter, NFB_PAD. And we just love to have you connect, share your ideas, because we need you as much as we may be needed by others. We need everyone to contribute to this movement to make it what it is and to make an impact.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time here on Scene Change.
I'm Katelyn MacIntyre, President of the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Scene Change. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and visit our website at nfb-pad.org. There you'll find links to our social media, membership, and resources for blind performers. Thanks to everyone who makes this show happen. Scene Change is produced by Shane Lowe, Chris Nussbaum, Seyoon Choi, and Precious Perez, with music by Ryan Strunk and Tom Page. Remember, you can be the performer you want. Blindness is not what holds you back. We'll see you next time.